if you're scared to voice your opinion, if you're scared to have conversations that are confrontational, if you're scared of people being mad at you, that all is a result of some sort of abandonment wound. Shame is at the bottom of the happy ending Sunday. Welcome back, everyone. So I've been talking about the mother wound a lot, and today I wanted to talk about the abandonment wound. And I just want to say too, this is not like a astrology chart or a horoscope or something where it's like you only have one or the other. A lot of these wounds can overlap and intertwine. And when it comes to something like the mother wound, that relationship is going to always have tentacles in everything else. And around the abandonment wound, it's usually around in whatever way you felt abandoned by your mother or your father, right? And I just want to say up front, and I've talked about this a lot, it doesn't necessarily mean that you were physically abandoned. A lot of the way most people experience the abandonment wound is emotional abandonment or some sort of abandonment where your parent was not able to be present for you or didn't have the capacity to support you in the way that you needed, right? And that doesn't mean there was anything wrong with them. It just means that you required something, you needed something that they couldn't give you, and that created a wound or a hole. And it also would have created a belief about yourself and a feeling about what you're worth, a feeling of who you are. And usually it would internalize as shame. And shame is a very funny thing, right? I always say that shame is at the bottom of the happy ending Sunday. And for those of you who don't know what that means, I know it sounds weird, but there was this restaurant called Friendly's that was really popular on the East Coast where I live. And they used to have a kids menu, and the kids menu would have this happy ending Sunday, which had M&Ms or Reese's Pieces at the bottom of the sundae. So when you finally got to the bottom of the sundae, there would be M&Ms or Reese's Pieces there, and it was like the most exciting thing, right? And I always say shame is the M&Ms at the bottom of the sundae, because shame is always at the bottom. It is always the emotion that is usually the most hidden or the deepest, right? And I always say that the action of shame is to hide. So a lot of times we not only hide our shame from other people, but we also hide it from ourselves. It's something that feels so bad or so wrong that we don't want to look at it or we don't want to feel it because it feels so overwhelming and painful. So in early childhood, when you needed a parent to be there for you emotionally or validate your emotions or your feelings, and they weren't capable, and instead they ignored your feelings, or they made you feel like they weren't important, or they tried to talk you out of them, or they invalidated them, then you would have internalized some sort of shame, because you would have learned that in order to get your needs met and get love and have connection, you need to hide how you feel. And not only do you need to hide how you feel, but how you feel isn't important, and therefore you're not important. So on some level, you would have internalized these feelings, which would translate to shame, because it's like, okay, well, the true authentic me is bad or wrong, and I need to hide that. So the coping mechanism a lot of times will be, I'm going to be what other people want me to be or need me to be so that I can get connection, love, validation, acknowledgement, and feel purposeful, right? So this is usually how we cope with the abandonment wound, is create some sort of false self or alternate personality that's not authentic to us, but that we think we need to create in order to get our needs met and in order to feel safe in the world. Most of the time, abandonment is much more nuanced than, just having a parent leave. And I always say that if you did have a parent who left or who physically wasn't there for you, even though that's very painful and it's not a fun thing to go through and process, It's easier in the sense that it is obvious, right? You know why you feel how you do. You know exactly the fact that they weren't there for you. You know why you feel how you feel, right? This more subtle abandonment that's more nuanced, more emotional, more energetic, more about being present or being attuned, it's harder to see, right? It's harder to face. And sometimes we will actually take on or identify with the way our parents abandon themselves, which is a lot more subtle, a lot more nuanced, and a lot more energetic, right? So that would mean something like, if you watched your mother abandon herself and her feelings and her needs to be there for your father or to be what he wanted her to be, but she was inside miserable and unhappy, even though you might not be cognitively aware of that when you're a child, you can feel it on an energetic level. And that is what is being modeled to you, right? And that's what you would unconsciously believe it means to be a woman or be in a relationship. So these are all things that are living in the subconscious that we most likely would not be aware of until we start to peel back the layers of like, well, why am I experiencing what I'm experiencing in relationships? Or why do I keep having the same argument or feeling the same way with my partner? Like, what is actually going on here? And we think it's about more surface level things like, how they talk to you or doing the dishes or, the mental load that everybody talks about. Like, those things happen and we get in these patterns and dynamics and relationships because of these very deep wounds of shame, abandonment, rejection, all caused by simply not getting certain needs met, not getting certain feelings validated in childhood, which cause us to feel shame and believe that we're not worthy or we're not important or there's something wrong with us. And, like I said, this is all energetic. And a lot of times this stuff is really instilled in you before you have cognitive thought or the words to make sense of it, right? So what I do with people and what the most efficient way to do this work is to look at, well, okay, what is not working in my life now? What is the pattern I keep repeating or the problem I keep coming up against? And how can I look at the energetics of that and draw a parallel between how I felt in childhood? And a lot of times it's not easy to see without someone else supporting you and guiding you through that process. So the abandonment wound is usually woven in to that and can usually show up as intense fear of rejection or criticism. So, if you're scared to voice your opinion, if you're scared to have conversations that are confrontational, if you're scared of people being mad at you, that all is a result of some sort of abandonment wound. And like I said, it can just be emotional abandonment. And the other piece of this too that I wanted to mention is a lot of times when we have a deeper abandonment wound, it can show up in our kids. So I have a client who her mom actually did leave her for a specific amount of time when she was 6. And she was having an experience with her daughter who was around the same age who had severe separation anxiety. And every time she would try to leave her daughter would cry. And it was like a whole thing. And it would give her so much anxiety and she didn't know what to do about it. And it would stop her from, like going on vacation or even going out to dinner with her husband. And as we peel back the layers of her abandonment wound and really started to process and heal what she was carrying, even though she knew what had happened and she had processed a lot of it, we went even deeper and we processed it on a deeper level. We got into some of the subconscious beliefs and the emotions using the breath work. And within less than 6 months, her daughter completely stopped with the separation anxiety and it's no longer a thing, right? So a lot of times we will look at those things through the lens of like, okay, well, how can I help my kid or how can I make her stop? But really, usually our children are just mirroring those things back to us that we are being invited to look at and reconcile. And if you want to hear more about that story, my client Sage tells it on the podcast, and I'll link that episode below so you can hear more about that. But as far as the abandonment wound goes, I would say if you have any of the above, feeling fear of rejection, fear of criticism, afraid of confrontation, people pleasing, afraid of people not liking you, hyper afraid of what people think of you, that all is signs of the abandonment wound. So what can you do about it? Well, first of all, I would start doing some journaling just about the things that I shared, the rejection, the criticism, all of that stuff. And then just see if you can draw a parallel between how you feel around those things and how you felt in childhood. And just see what comes up. And you can do one of the breath works I have here. There's plenty of breathwork sessions in the breathwork playlist that you can use, and just take a week or two and really let yourself explore it, bring awareness to it, and then start to see if you can draw the parallels. And then if you need more support around it, I have a digital course called Dissolve Your Abandonment Wound, which we'll link below. And then obviously you can reach out to me if you want to go deeper with it. Thank you so much for being here. Please comment below. I'd love to hear how this lands for you. I'd love to hear about your insights around your abandonment wound, if you feel like you've processed it and moved through it and come out the other side. And I will see you guys soon. Thank you so much.